Fantastic. So we are live as part of the 7-day Business Fuel Challenge. Thank you to those people I can see who have already jumped online. If you do wish to be part of today's conversation, you can ask Jen a question by jumping into one of the hot seats below, or you can pop a question in the live chat box. So if you put /Q, we'll be able to catch the attention of your question. Of course, throughout the 7 days, we are chatting about what fuels you. We are looking at all the different types of fuel options that people use to fuel themselves, especially where they're looking at growing their business. And we look at how personal fuel affects business fuel. So we've chatted with all kinds of people through the week so far. We had a good chat last night on starting to talk about the fuel of movement. With the fantastic Mike Campbell, who Jen also knows. And we've also covered mindset, and throughout the weekend and into next week, we are getting into the business side of things. We're going to be talking about brand, we're going to be talking about revenue, and we're going to be talking about productivity. So what we've got on the cards. But first of all, I'd like to welcome Jen. Thank you, Jen, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So you and I have had the pleasure of being in contact for about probably 18 months, nearly 2 years now. And initially it was me seeing your, and then having the wonderful experience of you speaking to some women who are pregnant or planning to be pregnant, and looking at how they can have a better experience through their body. And I was very fortunate to attend that event at Bondi Junction a while ago with you, and to then have a greater understanding of the depth of material you bring into your programs. I am Rebecca Newman. I'm the founder and CEO of the Grow Project, which is a business training and coaching company where we actually integrate individual performance, particularly around the health and lifestyle aspects, into the traditional business side as well. And that's how Jen and I met. So Jen is the founder and owner of Body Beyond Baby and Tough Mums. She's also an elite obstacle racer and an author. She has an amazing following on Instagram with nearly 15,000 followers, and that has been an interesting business in itself, Jen, providing lots of opportunities and fueling lots of other people. Particularly, I know it started with the partly started with the handstands, and there's a lot on there about your elite obstacle racing, which is amazing. Of course, the author of Body Beyond Baby, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Could you start by telling us how you came to specialise in fitness, particularly for women?
I guess I had babies. So before my husband turned 8 in July this year, and prior to that, I was a personal trainer, which training just general population up at a big gym chain. And after I had Marley, I discovered that I had a little bit of an idea as to how to look after myself and how to get back to where I wanted to be, or to move through to a new space as a mum, but also, from a body and mind and emotional perspective as well. But there was a lot of women around me that didn't know how to do that. So over time, or, quite quickly actually, it became apparent that I could start to hone my skills and learn more from my own experience, but then also health professionals around me, already in the mum space, to then start to help the mums that I was starting to move around a lot more.
So tell me about the problems that you noticed that women were facing, particularly in that space.
I think, right in the early days, I was quite focused on it just being a fitness thing. Mums can't get their bodies back, or they want to look a certain way. But, the business is now 8 years old this year. And for me, it's become more about, more and more apparent that fitness is a vehicle in which mums can regain their sense of self. So rather than it just being go to the gym, go search for the body that you're not going to get again, you're going to get a different body. It can be better. It's going to be what you choose to make it. But the main problems for mums are they put themselves at the bottom of the pile. They're very good at looking after everybody else, and sometimes very hesitant to look after themselves. And if they do, they have this feeling of guilt around that. And asking for help, like mums notoriously don't ask for help. We kind of, paddle our legs underwater and make it look like everything's okay when things aren't really. So I think a lot of the problems mums are facing are, time, energy, and even when they do find the time and energy, what do they actually do? What do they need to do for their body and their mind to make sure they're looking after themselves?
So one of the things we've talked about quite a few times is the why behind we do different fuel options, and that different things will fuel different people. And so I would love to know, from a movement as a fuel piece, what is the why? Why does movement fuel us beyond what's the skin deep layer, I guess, that people are familiar with?
So I'm going to frame it from a mum's perspective as to why getting moving is going to help you in every other area of your life, the fuel. So I have a big belief that women, we have a tendency to kind of all the way through our, teens or late teens, early 20s, 30s, when we become aware of our body, it can be such a, we can either love it and feel really good about ourselves, or we can hate it, and that kind of impacts in every single part of your life. And as a mum, you go through this time of change, and quite often on the other side, you look at this body and, it's a body and people don't like it anymore. We forget to respect everything that it's been through, and we forget to, love it for what it's done, and we fall into this purely aesthetic state of, I don't like what my body looks like. But if we can start to use movement, and throw nutrition in there as well, like movement as a fuel to love ourselves again, and to find a new respect for the body that we have, what it's done, all the things it can do, then I believe that, when we find that as women, then that flows over into the rest of our lives. So the fuel that feeling strong, feeling motivated, feeling energetic, feeling all of those things, and knowing that you've gone about fixing yourself in the right way after having a baby, because everyone has a bit of that to do, can then flow over into every part of your life. So once you've regained body control and that kind of thing, I think it makes a very big difference to your mindset and to how you move forward.
So talk to me about how you work with women from the inside out.
So we have we work within probably 3 layers of regaining fitness. And the first one is rebuilding from the inside out. So a lot of women, if they're not educated post-baby, they'll just go back to, when the doctor says everything's okay, they'll just go back to what they were doing beforehand. But there's actually a new layer that we need to build upon now. So we need to know about abdominal separation. We need to know what your pelvic floor is doing. You might have some other, hips, knees, backs, all that kind of stuff going on as well. So we really need to build a nice, strong foundation that a lot of people haven't bothered to do prior to having a baby, and it just becomes a new awareness. So we work with mums, and we work very closely with women's health physios to make sure that we can, as a personal trainer, we also need to be aware of what we don't know. So I can be very good at what I can do, but there's aspects that I can't do. So I can't give a woman real-time ultrasound to find out, to check her pelvic floor. I'm not qualified to give her an internal examination. So I work very closely with women's health physios for them to give me that picture, or the eyes on the inside, to make sure that every exercise that we're giving them is helping them to regain strength. So we start with the rebuild from the inside out layer. And once we know what's happening there, we can use big compound basic movement patterns with any kind of adaptions for whether it's pelvic floor, whether it's abdominal separation, whether it's anything else that she's got going on. So there's, within what we do, there's a lot of variation. A squat may not look like a squat if you look around the 10 different people in the room. And help her to build upon the rebuild from the inside out layer, and then on top of that from there. So not just going back to what you were doing beforehand is the key message, I think.
And talk to me about the women that you're working with. Who is coming to you? Who are you finding? Tell me about the personas of a couple of the people that you're working with.
Wow, that's a good question. We've got a wide variety of mums that come to us. We're based in 3 areas of Sydney, so in the eastern suburbs, the inner west, and the North Shore. And a lot of these mums are women that will go back to work, not all of them, but they understand, or they're starting to understand, that they need to know more about their body rather than just going back. So it's the ones that are open to understanding what they need to do different, or some mums just they come back to us and they just want to get moving again, they want to feel good about themselves again. But I think there's a big kind of shift in motherhood at the moment to try and move towards looking after yourself more. And it's really enlightening to see all these mums coming, you know, to get some time out from their baby, because we give them a little bit of childcare while they're training, and yeah, just start to move towards that. I guess I'll use the word empowerment, even though it's one of those words that you don't want to throw around too much, but feel more, you know, more of the woman that they are within the mother that they've become, I guess.
I certainly resonated a lot with your book when I read it, and with yourself, because I do have the scenario where I have a much better body after baby. I definitely didn't go into the first pregnancy in that way, and I didn't have the awareness that I now have as to what that can create in not only in pregnancy, in that before baby phase, but also in the birthing experience, also in the recovery experience. So that's why I was so keen as part of the Grow Project to make sure that we are integrating the physical movement side, and doing it in the way that is smart. So looking at those inside, those layers, and making sure that we're actually fueling ourselves and not doing more damage. But yes, I definitely have a better body after baby, and I remember meeting one of your amazing crew from your Centennial Park group who was at the workshop that day.
Yeah.
And I think it was a bit of a relief, to be honest, to some of the mums to be who were at all different stages of pregnancy in the room, to actually think about things in a different way. And I guess that's what the Grow Project is about, to let people know that people like you exist. And that there's a lot that they can do to fuel themselves. And you guys just take care of all the logistics, which I think is really big. Or I know it's really big. You yourself as a mum know that logistics is really big. And you guys take care of all of that. And it's a wonderful environment that you create. Why, Jen, what does this mean to you? Why are you building these businesses in terms of Beyond Baby and Tough Mums?
There's two levels for me. One is the physical level, and I'm hugely passionate about changing the way that mums are looked after postnatal. And that goes right back to the 6-week checkup with the obstetrician, that, you know, a woman with 2 fingers separation is told that she's normal, which absolutely after having a baby she's normal, but she's not normal like she was before she had a baby. But the word normal says, I'm cool, I don't need to do anything else, I just go back to what I was doing beforehand. And that's when we see women come to us with, you know, a prolapse that might have been avoided had she been looked after differently, or abdominal separation that's never fixed itself because she's never been given the right information, or knee pain because her pelvic floor and abdominals and nothing's working properly. So she's tried to go back to exercise, and, you know, in trying to do the right thing, unraveled in the process. So, you know, I really, really want to change the way that mums are trained, and not just by coming to me, because I can't reach that many people, but reaching other personal trainers and teaching them, you know, you don't have to know all about the anatomy, you don't have to know all those things, but you do need to know how to keep someone safe. So I'm in the process at the moment of writing and getting accredited a course for personal trainers, which is called Safe Return to Exercise. And that will, you know, help to give the everyday personal trainer the tools that they need to keep mum safe whilst working alongside a health professional, so a women's health physio. And I guess, you know, that the other side of it, and it's what I kind of touched on before, is that if we can change the way that a woman views herself as a mother, and give her back what she was before she became a mother. So let's remove the mum label. Let's put the woman back in there that just happens to be a mum as well. And by helping her to fix her body, you know, regain that confidence, understand what's happening, then I truly believe that impacts into every other part of your life. You know, your relationships, you know, business. Like, we've had women come and, you know, go through the program with us, and they go, I feel really good about myself. Now I'm going to go start my business. And that to me is really, really cool. So it's about, you know, the strength within the woman, and not just wearing that mum label. It's not, that's part of you, but you are you.
I think that's really important, because it is an amazing time. It's one of the reasons that we talk at the Grow Project about being the best time to for your business to grow, which is quite contrary to what a lot of people talk about, because there's a lot of fear around both professionals and business owners in terms of, is my business and my career going to fall apart? But I think there is a massive opportunity. Well, there is a massive opportunity there as part of redefining yourself and deciding who you are and how does all the elements of you fit into your own vision, and how movement and the physical side can be part of that. And I know I've had conversations, particularly in the last 10 days, around what fit feels like as a mother and what energy it actually provides. And it's actually not really about the skin on the outside. It's actually about the fit side of things and how amazing that feels. Is that something that you come across regularly?
Absolutely. Like our priorities change, lots of things change. And I also think that if we can work with women enough, we can remove that last bit of, we all want to look good, but it's not, don't beat yourself up if it didn't go right that day or you didn't get done what you needed to get done. But, think about all the other positive ways that it's impacting into your life. And it just starts to snowball, a little bit of once or twice a week in exercise can start to snowball into, a complete life change. Like the woman that you spoke about, Danette, she's actually a really good friend of mine that I met through, she came to me as a client, and she's off obstacle racing and, traveling across the world to do obstacle races and, making sure that you keep that sense of adventure as a mum. And, that rubs off on your kids as well. Like I take my kids to do obstacle races and things like that. So, let's keep the fun as a mum as well as all the other stuff. And that, again, translates into business. Like if you're in business and you're not having fun, then, I don't know, change it or go get a job.
Yeah, and I think that fun element is what comes really naturally in the movement space, because you are out moving, you are getting the oxytocin going, you are getting the serotonin going, you're getting all those amazing hormones happening. You're calming down your adrenals and you're getting all of your cortisol levels in check. And, it's amazing for all of those things. And the other thing I noticed, I was at a triathlon down in Huskisson a little while ago, and to see the fun that is being had and the presence that is had at those kind of big sporting events, where there's families there and there's kids doing fun runs, and that role modeling and the way that you choose to spend time is just fantastic. And I have a little bit of a situation at my house where my kids have been to yoga with me so many times that they actually want to come, or they stay up until I get home because they feel like they're missing out. So I guess that's a nice problem to have, that they love moving. But it's certainly something that we've tried to involve them with. And that was not something I thought of originally. I kind of went, oh, well, it's me time. But actually it's a really nice balance. And I actually can do now. It doesn't work in every scenario, and I don't always take the kids to yoga with me these days. It varies. I have different purposes, but I certainly try and do both. And I love the fun environments as you just.
Yeah, we have the babies that have grown up with us. Yeah. So, we've got 4-year-olds that came to us as babies, and they'll come into the park now, and when they're on school holidays, they'll come and exercise with mum. So it's good. It's a snowball effect. I think when mum kind of looks after herself, then the whole family starts to do the same.
Absolutely. I would really invite, if anybody has any questions they want to know about some specifics. I can see a couple of people who are online. I know I can see who is online at the Huskisson event and is, in fact, an amazing person in that space. But if anyone wants to jump online, they can put a question in at /Q in the box. And you do just need to be logged into Blab to be able to do that. Or you can hit the come here button that you can see, and you can call in and we can bring down below. So people can do that. But I'm going to ask Jen my question, which is, what are the top 5 fuels for you? We've had all different kinds, but what fuels you? And we've had everything from all kinds of examples. So I guess with 5, we're looking at those diverse things that make a difference in your life. Most people have mentioned sleep. So absolutely anything, big or small.
All right. So I'm going to it was funny. I went for a run a couple of days ago, and I was thinking about my personal philosophies and what they are. So I'm going to kind of frame it in that way, if that's okay, rather than just the 5. But a big one for me, like to start with, and it rolls into every part of your world, is that love and that connection to other people, whether it's friendships, whether it's business relationships, whether it's, making sure you're spending time around the people that are going to help you to grow. So whether it's finding a fitness group or finding a yoga or whatever it is, being in that space where you can make connections and nurture and love around the right people. Adventure for me is a really, really big one. So I'm constantly looking at, when's the next race, or what is there that I can take my kids to, or, what is it? And finding that, just that sense of fun again, like, and that I think it flows into business, into every part of your life. And in that, so let's say number 3 is obviously exercise and movement. And that flows into your kind of adventure space as well. Making sure I move pretty much every day, and my movement in myself is changing. So listening to yourself, if you're not in the space at the moment to go out and smash yourself in the gym, well then don't. Like, I've just discovered urban yoga for anyone that it's yoga in a darkened room with music and visuals, and it's awesome. Like, I'm loving that space. So, definitely exercise and movement. Meditation, and I'll throw it out there, it's probably been said before, meditation and reading. So I spend about half an hour every day, and it's normally when I sit down to eat, just to make sure I stop. So I'm reading Brene Brown's Rising Strong at the moment, sitting, reading that, and then meditating before or afterwards. And then the last one, I think, maybe it's a contradiction what you're saying, but it's a growth thing for me. A growth makes you grow. So always looking for, if you come to the end of yourself and you don't know what to do next, like, what are you gonna seek? What's the book you're gonna read? Who's the person that you're gonna talk to? Who's the new person you're gonna train with? Like, what is gonna help you grow within your growth? I don't know if does that make sense? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely a fuel that's important to me. So I couldn't agree with you more. And it's certainly something that if it's not there for me, then I become very insular. I go into what I call the mummy cave, which is where I kind of don't seek the connection anymore. I just get further into cave, and then it gets harder and harder to come out. So that kind of stimulation around growth and new concepts and such, which actually as part of motherhood was one of the things that refueled me, learning all about those aspects. And then there was the intellectual and business side in particular, which if it's not there for me, it's just not right for my recipe. And it's not that it would be the same for everyone. It's just that that's part of my recipe, and I'm agnostic as to what people's fuel is. My goal with the Business Fuel Challenge is just that people consider what their fuel sources are, and then that they do them. And as part of the printable, there's a space down the bottom where, this goes through all the basics that are going to give you the foundations of what you're after in your health. But there's 5 sections, which is like, what is your fuel? And so some of mine are an hour of play every day with my children. So whatever we're doing, it's 1 hour. And then there is the business side. Did I learn something today that I didn't know? And whether it's a business thing or whether it's about a caterpillar or a butterfly or, anything. Did I see a snake today when I was out on my walk, and did it freak me out a bit? And it was also exciting, just those different types of stimulations, as you say. And I couldn't agree with you more. What does meditation mean to you? Because it's come up a few times, and I've been trying over the course of the fuel side of things to talk what meditation looks like to you. So what does it look like to you?
To me, it's very much about getting out of my head. It's a time that I can spend. I often go and, if anyone is on Instagram, you'll see photos of different spots around Sydney. So I'll quite happily stop in my car and go sit somewhere for half an hour and, meditate and hang out there. And if my computer's got battery, I'll work there as well if the weather's nice. But it's, taking in and appreciating the world around us by finding the space that I'm meditating in. It's not to say I haven't meditated in my car in a car park a number of times. And then, I think we've all got busy minds, and, the word busy is, it's okay to be busy as long as it's not upsetting you, but just to be able to find that space where you can kind of move into yourself. I do the TM meditation, so it's not a guided meditation, it's more a self self-guided with a mantra. And yeah, it just gives me that time, and it just stuff just stops, which is it's kind of addictive sometimes.
Now, can you just break down that
good.
acronym of TM? It's trans. And how did you learn that?
There's an awesome guy called Tom Cronin who teaches. He has a business called the Stillness Project, and I learned through Tom about.
Fantastic. I've got a question which would apply to a lot of people in the Grow Project, because as you know, mostly I work with women, actually pre-babies. So they're in that phase, they're just engaged or married, and they're thinking about what might be on the horizon. And the question is, what movement/exercise do you recommend for a woman pre-conception that she can continue through pregnancy?
It's interesting. I'd probably go down the road of strength training, but also becoming aware of your inside out before you have a baby. So if I could take every single woman and teach them that stuff before they fall pregnant, or at least in early pregnancy. So learning about your pelvic floor, what is it do, how do you activate it, how do you activate your deep transverse abdominis muscles. So they're, you've got 4 layers of tummy muscles, and they're the innermost layer. And most people, men, women, everyone, we just brace. And there's, the buzzword in the fitness industry a few years ago was core. It's like activate your core, strengthen your core. And it's like most people don't even know what their core is. They think that their core is when they're, their rectus abdominals are burning and they're doing 100 sit-ups. But, your core, technically, if you want to go right to the deep layer, is your transverse abdominis. So if you can learn pre-pregnancy to activate or to be aware of your transverse abdominis and also pelvic floor, and then incorporate that with a solid strength training program. If you're a runner, go run, but my advice is that you stop running during pregnancy, and the question specifically says continue through pregnancy. So I'd definitely be going down the road of strength training with live movement patterns, so your squats, lunges, pushes, pulls. You don't need to be fancy. You just need to get strong and build a really good base. Get fancy postnatally, or if it's taking a while to fall pregnant, then have fun then as well. But make sure you build the inside out base at any time, and then proper good strength training on top of that.
I think the strength training is really interesting, because I feel like people are quite, there's a bit of a myth around not strength training, or there seems to be a bit of a natural fear there. It's something you come across regularly?
Yeah, I think that it's getting less and less. Like there's still, when you look around and you look at CrossFit and you look at, the amount of women that are lifting weights in a gym. But if you're not in that environment, then absolutely, I don't want to go to the gym because I don't want to get big. I remember a mum saying to me, I don't want to use a heavy elastic because I'm going to get bigger muscles, and it's like you're training once a week. It's not going to happen. So it's there is the fear around it, and if it's like anything, if you don't know about money, maybe there's a fear around money. If you can't swim, then maybe there's a fear around swimming. But if you educate yourself in what strength training will actually do, and by working with a good personal trainer or within a good environment, then hopefully, if we're good at what we do, we can get rid of those fears. But a good strong body going into pregnancy is definitely going to help you postnatally.
Absolutely. And my experience is that it also gives you a lot of confidence. So I did a lot of work post baby 1 and before baby 2. And I arrived at it 8 weeks after baby 1 because of injury brought on during birth. And so that then, and I went to exercise for physical recovery, and I came out with that, but more than anything, I came out with mental strength. And that was really incredible for me. And physically, I then got very strong before I even, because I didn't want to have a repeat injury. And I knew from my time at the Institute of Sport and working on the Olympics, how much effort goes into training and recovery, and that's much less about competition. And I knew that would play and translate well into the birthing environment in the second time that I had bub. And that's exactly what played out for me. So my understanding and my control over those muscles, which also, and I was working one-on-one with somebody around those, understanding those muscles, what that allowed me to do, whilst a lot of people would say you don't want them to be too tight and there's a lot of fear, I think, around having too tight and I won't dilate and I won't do all this, the control that it actually gives you and the power it gives you in pregnancy to have, in birth, to actually give you an outcome that you're after is mind-blowing. When you understand your muscles like that, it is, my experience is, it's completely mind-blowing.
It is. It's actually good that you bring that up because we do talk about strengthening, and whoever you were working with obviously was doing some really good stuff in teaching you how to relax, because, you know, a lot of women, and I see it a lot post baby number 1 into baby number 2, where they do all this strengthening exercise and they'll strengthen their pelvic floor, but they don't learn how to release. So of course, you know, you could have potentially, there's potential there for a more traumatic birth second time around than first time. So, you know, if you are doing any kind of pelvic floor training, making sure that yes, you can feel a contraction, but you also can completely release pelvic floor. So I don't know if you were working with a women's health physio at the time, but I definitely recommend that every woman from about 24 weeks, if not sooner, make sure that, you know, pelvic floor is, you're able to contract and release pelvic floor.
And also they have anything you know a little bit about, when you're actually then working with somebody that knows a lot about it, you actually realize the difference. In this case, I was working with a doctor of Chinese medicine who actually specializes in therapy yoga. And she's very specific on techniques, and she does a lot prenatally. And she's actually going to join us, the master's is going to join us later in the challenge and talk about yoga and why it's not about prancing ponies or standing on your head necessarily, but just what yoga actually gives you. But as working with her, that was phenomenal and a big part of my success in my second time. We are getting very, very close to time, so I would like to throw you one more question, and I guess that's around the opportunity. What do you think the opportunity is for people? And you know, you can go global, you can go any level you like. What do you think the opportunity is if people are moving their bodies?
I think that, I don't know, like, what are you missing out on if you're not? Is what comes to mind straight away. It's, you know, the world is your oyster, but if you're sitting still in any way, shape, or form, then you're not growing within yourself, whether it's through movement, whether it's, you know, emotionally, like whatever it may be. And, you know, through moving your body, it is that catalyst to everything else around you. So if you're sitting on the couch thinking about the business you're going to create and everything else, well, you're probably going to be sitting on the couch doing that, you know, in 2 months' time. But, you know, get out there, go for a run, get moving, get your body moving, find the energy, get around the right people. And, you know, we've all got so much capacity to achieve what we want to achieve and to reach a large number of people. You just got to fit together all the bits and pieces that make it all to come together. And I do believe, and I sit in that space, that, you know, you start to move, and it definitely is a catalyst to everything.
I couldn't agree more. And I'd love to ask you for 2 final words around how you leave people feeling. How do your clients describe, oh, Jen, leave me feeling?
I don't know. Some of them swear at me at the end of the session. I'm not sure I can answer that. I'd like to say that they leave feeling, got the 2 words strong and empowered, but I'll sit on that later and go, oh, I wish I said something else. But, you know, empowered because they've got the knowledge to then go choose what they want to do. And, you know, everyone's journey is different. And if you're a mum and your life is creating life around the home and having a little, you know, a part-time business on the side or whatever it may be, it's like, that's your thing, and that's what, you know, you've got the passion around that. And by being empowered in yourself, then you move forward with that, and having the strength to move, the strength to set boundaries, the strength to move forward, the strength to, you know, go out and try and work towards anything that you want to work towards is I'll go with those 2 words.
Fantastic. And online, Jen, where's the best place for people to find you and find out buy your book and find about your programs?
So my website is very simply jendugard.com. I'm pretty much Jen Dugard everywhere. There's a Body Beyond Baby Facebook page that you can catch me on, but I, you know, Instagram if you want to see some handstands and some sunrises and some training stuff. And so just Jen Dugard. If you Google Jen Dugard.
Excellent. And I can see we've got your address in the live chat box, so people can jump in there. I will wrap up today and say thank you very much, Jen, for joining us on the 7-Day Business Fuel Challenge. And I am sure people have got great insight from what you've contributed today, both in your personal stories and the stories of the people that you work with. I would really encourage people to sign up to the full schedule so they know everybody that's going to be online, and you can catch replays. Join us live. We've got an amazing lineup over the weekend. We've got Nakringudis kicking us off tomorrow at 10 o'clock. We've also got Lindsay Boyd on and Anthea in the afternoon. So big day on Saturday. And then next week we've also got Tim Dwyer, who's with Sherlaws and is going to chat to us about revenue, product architecture and the entrepreneurial journey. We've got Adam Frampton coming on chatting about productivity and red, blue, black and green. And then Anthea, we're going to have a bit of a check-in with Anthea Kalouros of Ovio about how everybody's going on their challenge, how they're going with getting ticks on their scorecard, and also to have a bit of a chat to her about food, and let's get real about some of the food, which is one of the best things I've experienced in working with Anthea. You can also score great prizes like Jen's book if you are part of the option list. And I would encourage those. If you'd like to win a copy of Jen's book, I would really encourage you to hit her up on one of the social medias in the next couple of days. Hit her up and tell her what your learning was from this session. So whether you prefer Facebook, whether you prefer Twitter, Instagram, if you tag Jen and you tag hashtag 7-Day Business Fuel Challenge and let us know what your learning is, we'll put you in the draw and then announce who has won a copy of Jen's book. There's also an entire prize pack which is growing by the minute. We had a prize pack worth about $300 and now it's just, I've got pieces coming. I had another piece come in for a couple of $100 last night, so that was fantastic. So make sure you do get part of the action and we'll reward you in that way for joining us on the 7-Day Fuel Challenge. Of course, you can follow the Grow Project on Facebook and Twitter, and you'll find all the details about our upcoming events, including the Grow Lab, at rebeccanewmanonline.com.au/events. Thank you very much, Jen. Thank you to everybody whose eyes I can see have been on our session today. Thank you for our questions, and I look forward to catching you all tomorrow. Ciao, Jen. Ciao, guys.
You bet.